Let me ask you this. Have you ever been with Let me ask you this. Have you ever been with your partner or spouse and they start to do something that really just gets under your skin? And it could be them chewing on something, right? Or it could be a cologne or perfume that he or she is wearing. Or it could be a noise that you hear, right? And something about you just starts to get angry and enraged, but you don't have no idea what that thing is or why it's even happening to you. Well, I'm here to break down what's actually happening to you, because these things are known as your triggers. Now, I want to specifically speak to you about how your triggers are destroying your relationship, because many of us do not realize that we have triggers or what those triggers are. And so I wrote something down here that I wanted to read to you. So what is a trigger? A trigger is an intense emotional distress that you feel when reminded of a past traumatic experience. That's right. Your triggers are past traumatic experiences that are coming up in that moment. And why you get frustrated and infuriated and angry and pissed off and ready to fight somebody is because of what happened to you in the past. So now let me bring it home for you. Your past traumatic experiences, those triggers specifically, when you smell the smell, maybe it was somebody's cologne. So say for instance, and just rock with me because this is going to be a little tough in the beginning. Say for instance, you were molested or raped and you remember the man's smell. And then 10, 15, 20 years go by, you think that you're over it and you smell his smell. You don't see him. It's somebody else completely different. But you are now pissed off, enraged, ready to fight, or you flee, run away, shut down, get out of there, or you just freeze and do nothing because you don't know what to do. Your body can't move, your body can't react, and so you're stuck. Those triggers are destroying your relationship because you have yet to deal with what happened to you in the past. Now, some triggers are less severe than the example that I just used. And I'm specifically going to talk about the trigger that I had. I'm over it now. I've dealt with it. But before I dealt with it, my trigger was my chocolate skin. And it wasn't a trigger. It wasn't a traumatic experience until I got teased about it, which makes sense because you are not experiencing your own triggers or traumatic experiences unless somebody did something to you. Well, my something was being teased about my dark skin. Now, the thing about my dark skin is I did not just get teased by outsiders. I got teased by my own siblings and family members. I got teased by the children and kids at school. And so from, I don't remember when it started, but let's say about 12, about 11 or 12 up to 18. So what is that? 6 years, 6, 7 years, maybe even up to 10 years, somewhere around there though. I can't remember exactly when it started, but I know it was for a long time, at least according to me as a child at the time. And being teased day in and day out, all day long. And I didn't have the tools or strategies to be able to block, or even speak up and use my voice. I just allowed it to occur. That really damaged my self-esteem. It damaged my self-confidence. And this person that you hear today with all of this fire was not there for that period of time in my life. And honestly, the way that it has affected me now is I don't remember a lot of my childhood. And some of my family, my siblings, and my friends from my childhood that I still speak with, they'll tell me about a story, or they'll try to get me to remember something, and I don't remember it. Now, what I'm speaking about may not be your story or may not seem as severe to you, but to me, the way that I internalized it is I blocked out a lot of my childhood past. Now, I was never raped or molested myself, so that's not a part of my traumatic experience. But for me, it was enough for me to block out my past. Most instances, not every single thing, but in most instances, I just don't remember being there. Like, I have a girlfriend who will try to remind me of things that we did, like going to parties and all these other things. And literally my response is always, was I there? And then, of course you was there. We did X, Y, and Z. I don't remember. What I do remember is always trying to hide, always trying to not be seen, because every day, like clockwork, I was being teased about my chocolate skin. And so the way that I protected myself was to not remember. And I can't remember the term right now, but I recently found out the term for that. And I can't remember it in this moment, but yes. So I was protecting myself, and I just don't remember, and I blocked out a lot of it. But that is a traumatic experience for sure. When you cannot remember certain parts about your life, you absolutely went through something. And those things can trigger you. And so how my traumatic experience started to trigger me is whenever I was dating and the guy didn't like me, he didn't choose me, or he ghosted me or whatever, my first go-to was my skin. Well, it had to be because I'm so black. It was never that, well, she got low self-esteem. She ain't got no confidence. She just let me do whatever. It was never that. That was never my thought process, even though that was probably what was happening. That was never my thought process. My go-to insecure thing that I would say is it has to be my skin. Not realizing how stupid that actually was, because he had to see my skin when he first met me. So why now would he stop talking to me because of my skin? Now, maybe there were some petty men out there like that was doing that. Okay, fine. But by and large, the majority of them, it had nothing to do with my skin. Because after I left home and got away from all of that trauma and really started to blossom and live my life is when I left home. So I left home at 18 and I joined the United States Navy, and I met my first real boyfriend. And I say real boyfriend because I really was sneaking and dating, so I didn't really have no boyfriend in school, right? So my first real boyfriend, he just started speaking life into me, and he would tell me how beautiful I was, and he loved my skin, and we were about the same complexion, and it was just like night and day, where it went from me being teased all day in and day out, to me getting praised about this chocolate skin. And I did not know how to handle it at all. I did some things wrong. I can totally say that I did some things wrong, attracted some wrong people, gave my body away more times than I would like to even admit. But I'm being real, because I can be real with y'all. And this is the only way that we get our healing, is by being real. The only way that you're going to be able to heal from your triggers that are triggering you is for you to be real with you. I'm just talking to more than one person. But your triggers can cause you to react as if the trauma were happening right in that moment again, which is why you do the thing that you did before. I remember reading this article where this gentleman had come home from the war, and he was experiencing PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And his PTSD was in the form of a car backfiring. And so for him, whenever he heard a car backfiring, it put him back in the war where he was ducking and dodging gunshots. And so this one particular day, He was walking down the street with his girlfriend, and she heard it just like he heard it, but the reaction was completely different. His reaction was to duck in between two cars, and her reaction was to be like, what is happening with you? But that's when she really found out what was happening with him. After the incident, he was able to say, oh, whatever. He told her about the war and the gunshots and everything, which is why, she understood. But at that moment, prior to understanding what the heck he was doing and why he was ducking and dodging a backfiring of a car, she had no idea. But the point that I'm trying to make is you revert back to that thing as if it's happening. So for him, he was back in the war in that very moment, when in reality, he was walking down the street holding his girlfriend's hand. Which is why you also do the exact same thing. So back to my example of being molested or raped, and now you smell this person again. You're either going to fight, you're going to flight, or you're going to freeze. Which is your internal response that we all have, that we all do. It's one of three reactions. Fight, flight, or freeze. And any kind of a cue or reminder of a traumatic event can be considered a trigger. So I just mentioned smell, the cologne is what I mentioned. Or it could be the body odor. It could be a sound in the other example that I mentioned with the car backfiring. It could be seeing someone. Like I have some clients that have come to me who have said that they never told anybody that they get raped or molested by this family member. And then every holiday they had to see the family member that did the ugliness to them and took away their innocence. And in some instances, the parent or guardian didn't even believe the child. Other instances, they never uttered a word of who actually did what. People noticed that their behaviors changed, but they never understood why. And now many years and decades later, they're able to articulate these things. And these people that they see, the smells that they smell, the sounds that they hear, even somebody can touch you a certain way that can trigger you to turn into somebody different. And they have no idea what's going on, which is why the triggers are destroying the relationships. Because when we do not deal with our past traumatic experiences, this is exactly what happens. The other person, your partner in this case, has no idea why you're shutting down, why he's being shut out. How come you two can't enjoy sex like you once did? Because in his mind, nothing was bothering you before. Now all of a sudden, you can't have sex as much, or you don't want to be touched in this way. You're angry all the time, frustrated. It's because you've never dealt with your past traumatic experience, which is why you're still being triggered and being put back in that moment as if it's happening present day. When you're triggered, you have the automatic response, which is what I meant earlier, which is the fight, flight, or freeze. It's the automatic response. It's not something that you even have control over doing, which is where the word automatic comes from. You just automatically protect yourself. Automatically protect yourself. But that automatic protection is where the other person who's receiving it is like, whoa, what just happened? Why you blowing up like this? I didn't even do. Like they really just trying to figure it out. It's that automatic response. You just reverting back to doing the thing that you need to do to protect yourself. When you're triggered, right? Your heart may start to race. Boom, 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 boom. Like you can feel it. You even think that other people can hear your heart. But nobody can hear your heart. You can hear your heart. And it's because it's racing. Maybe your fist even automatically clench up because you about to fight somebody. You about to tear something up in here. Because the thing about it is that most of us did not have control over the person or the thing that was stealing away our innocence, right? Where the trigger happened. We didn't have control. And so now I got control. That ain't about to go down the way it went down. That is never happening to me again. Which is where those fists come in automatically because you about to tear somebody up. Another thing is you could sweat, and profusely, like you sweating a whole lot. This is the automatic response, trying to get you ready to protect yourself. You may even be on guard at all times. Maybe you even experience flashbacks like the guy did as far as that came home from the war. You may even start having nightmares or even currently having nightmares. And you could begin to avoid situations and or people because, again, you're in protection mode. Not realizing that you staying in your bubble is keeping your spouse out, it's keeping your children out, it's keeping your friends out. And all of these people love you. They want to see you happy. They want to see you healthy. And they feel like they have that, like they can't do anything for you. But it's because they don't realize what is happening to you. And so if you need some help, I really, really, really want to invite you to get you some help. Go speak to someone who can help you to get rid of these triggers and help you to start healing through these traumatic experiences. Now, for me, I don't specialize in this, but I do know that this is something that is plaguing relationships overall, but specifically in the Black community. This is plaguing our relationships. These triggers are plaguing our relationships. Again, I do not specialize in triggers, but absolutely get the help that you need so you can get the relationship that you deserve as well as desire, as well as your children deserve to see, as well as your spouse deserves to receive from you. But they cannot receive something that you're not able to willingly give. And the thing about triggers is you might not even realize that you are being triggered. But if you're watching this far or listening this long, then there is something within you. And it could be something minor, like I talked about mine. I understand now that a lot of the people that were teasing me specifically for my little T trauma, because they're little T traumas and there's big T traumas. Mine is considered a little T. If you've been raped or molested or seen something very devastating, absolutely that is a big T trauma. Again, I don't specialize in it, but I know that these are destroying relationships because for me, for the longest time, I was destroying my own relationships because I had no idea that my trauma, my traumatic experiences was what was keeping me stuck and attracting the same people over and over again. And not reaching the next level in love because I had low self-esteem. I had low confidence. And it was destroying the relationships because you're really attracting the person where you're at today. So if I had low self-esteem, then 9 times out of 10, the person that I was dealing with had low self-esteem as well. I had low confidence. And maybe he did have high confidence, which is why he was able to see my low confidence. Was like, nah, I'm good. She looked good, but nope. She ain't ready for me. And I get that now. I didn't get it back then. And you too can get it. But you got to get the help. You got to seek out the help so somebody can help you get to the next level in your life. And not just your love life, but just your life overall, so you can be a better human being, so you can be a better person in society overall. But then you can also understand who you truly are, so you're able to articulate that to your spouse or your significant other, and even to your children, because sometimes children believe that they are the cause of your anger or your frustration, and they should not ever feel that way. And so if you want to break these generational curses that we have within our relationships, then you have to be the change that you are seeking. Do not allow these triggers and your past traumatic experiences to run your life. You have the power to do something about it. It's just a matter of taking the first step, because that first step is something that many people struggle with taking. It's not about the momentum in the moment. It's about that first step. But you have to be willing to take it as well as take it. Be willing to take it, and then do actually take the steps so you can get the healing that you deserve as well as need. These triggers can cause someone to withdraw from people, and even more severe, to become suicidal. And I do not want you to get to the stage where you feel that you have to be suicidal, because you're not dealing with the things that truly matter, the things that can truly change the trajectory of your life, the way you feel about yourself, the way that you see yourself, the way that you view the world, the way that you view everybody around you. Because here's the thing, everybody is not out to get you. Your spouse is not against you. Your children are not against you. Your friends are not against you. As I mentioned earlier, those people in your inner circle want to see you happy, healthy, and absolutely alive. And if you have been thinking about suicide, then I absolutely want you to stop this right now and reach out to the hotline, the suicide hotline, so you can get help. Because it's not just about you. It's about you fighting for your life. Because if you are being suicidal, you are in a fight for your life. You do have to know that the people around you love you. You do have to understand that you have to love yourself. You do have to understand that whatever happened to you to cause this trauma in your life, you can get through it. You must get through it. Because have you ever heard that the things that we experience in life are not really for us? They are to help others who have gone through it but can't get over it, who are about to go through it, right? Or who have newly gone through it. So you can help somebody else to come on the other side based off of you taking care of yourself and how you did it. Like, I think about AA, and I don't know a whole lot about AA meetings or anything because I've never gone through them. But one of the things, their 13th rule, and is it called a rule? I don't know. But the 13th, like commandment, if you will, and there is, even if they get the first 12 right, where they're doing right in the program, excellent in the program, and they're doing everything that they need to do, they still can revert back if they don't do number 13. And number 13 is specifically what I just mentioned here, which is helping somebody else who was in your shoes previously or has gone through the same thing. So an ex-alcoholic has to help another alcoholic who's trying to withdraw and get away from it in order for him to be successful. So that is the same thing for you. So now I can help people, right, who are dealing with colorism or just hating their skin in any instance, right? Because I've done the work on myself. And so I can help somebody better in that light. You can help somebody no matter what you've gone through. But you got to get your help first. You got to get your healing first. And so after you're able to get your healing and your help, now it's time for you to pass along and pass along the knowledge that you attained to the next person who needs it. Because the truth of the matter is, whatever you are experiencing, number one, you're not alone. Number two, there are others out there who have experienced the same thing that you have experienced, but maybe are not as doing as well as you are. So you got to get the healing. You cannot allow these triggers and your past to run your relationship, to ruin your relationship, to destroy your relationships, because relationships are the biggest part of our lives. Relationships, they're the biggest part of our lives. And so you got to do the things that you need to do in order to keep the people around you that you want to keep around you. The triggers can even develop if you falsely blame yourself for the trauma. So what this means is you didn't specifically experience the trauma, but you blame yourself for the trauma that somebody else have experienced and you take it on as your own. That can be a trigger as well. But we got to deal with these triggers. We have to deal with these triggers, because if we don't deal with these triggers, then these triggers are eating away and destroying everything that we have built. And there's no sense in continuing to build on sinking sand. We have to rip off the Band-Aids and actually deal with the thing, deal with the wound, deal with the sore. Got to deal with it. Because until you can deal with what you're actually being plagued with, you won't be able to have a successful relationship. You won't. You won't. But the thing about it is, the upside to it is that you have control over it. You absolutely can win this relationship war, if you will. But you got to be willing to do the work. Because nobody else can do the work for you, sis. Nobody else can do the work for you, bruh. You got to do your own work. Because one thing about this life, all of us have been burned and touched by it in some way. Each and every one of us has got a trigger, whether minor or major. And you got to deal with that trigger in order to continue to create and facilitate healthy romantic relationships, and even the healthy relationship with yourself. If you don't deal with these things, that's why we have so many people that numb themselves. Numbing themselves could be in the form of drugs. It could be in the form of drinking. It could be in the form of sex addiction or porn addiction or a video game addiction. Just anything that keeps you not dealing with the real stuff that matters. It could even be social media addiction, where you're just constantly on your devices, always on social media, scrolling, trying to see. You got to be a part, but you're never dealing with the real stuff. The stuff that's really, and I'm circling because I'm circling my head. The real stuff here. The stuff that keeps you up at night. The stuff that may give you nightmares. Got to deal with that stuff. This is how we are getting to restore ourselves. You can never restore the love if you're not willing to look in the mirror and deal with the person that's looking back at you in the real way, in the way in which it matters. And dealing with your trauma and dealing with your triggers does not always mean that you have to go and talk to somebody. It doesn't. There are so many books out here on so many subjects. It's just a matter of getting the book, reading or listening to the book, and then taking the actions that they put inside of these books. Because most books are done with research that's backing it up, and or they're written by people who are working with clients and have been doing this for decades, and they know what works and what doesn't work. The problem is a lot of people don't like to read. The problem is you get the information and then you do nothing with the information that you get. So you can't get different results if you're not willing to do the work, to take the actions. You have to be willing to do something different in order to get different results, because otherwise you're being insane. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It's not going to work. In order for you to kick these triggers to the curb for good, you must deal with them. You got to deal with them. Can't keep running away from them, because how is that working out for you? How blessed do you feel in your life? I mean, I'm curious, seriously. You have the power. You really have the power to get rid of, to start the process, if nothing else, of getting rid of your trauma and your triggers. I mentioned books. Now I'm going to mention podcasts, YouTube, right? Whatever and however you like to take in information. They got radio shows on all of this. But get the help that you need so you can start moving the needle in the direction of peace and joy. I am Marshaun Olaniyan. I am your favorite shift relationship strategist, where I help Black Christian women that are married or in long-term relationships to stop feeling disconnected and unloved and shift you to feeling heard, understood, and appreciated via my books, my digital courses, as well as my group coaching program that I have for Black women only. I love you guys, and there's nothing that you can do about it, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.